As I've sat through the day and I listen to everything, I take notes. When I come to the Bold New Normal conference, I come to learn as well. I think it's so important that we stay consistent in the learning journey, because there's every single time there's something someone is going to say that's either going to remind you of something, click in your mind, or completely net new information. And I get a lot. I'm always hungry for information. I will never know enough. That's the unfortunate thing. The amount of the way I love knowledge, I wish I could learn everything you all know, and I never will. So have that in your heart as you listen to others, not just to me. It's really funny. My husband loves to tease. So he looked at the program, I think it was last night. He's standing outside. And he said, so you don't have anything to do. Like the whole day, you're not doing anything. You're just there. And I laughed. And he says that because he loves to tease. The truth of the matter is that there's a lot of work that goes into today. And I say we intentionally because it does take a team to put this together. Not just the physical team, but the ideas, the strategies. I mean, you're surely not sitting here and thinking, I alone thought of everything that you see that is happening here. Are real, people who are ideating and challenging, and even challenging me. So I know I'm supposed to do vote of thanks at the end, but I just want you to recognize that there's so many people who make today possible. There's so many people here who I appreciate for their support. Jigbodi, Dedo, they've come all the way. And I also appreciate the people who inspire me, like Enam, this young lady here. I mean, I looked at her and I said, you look familiar. And she said to me, Judy Foods. I don't know what she does in between. I don't know how. But for me, she has been my Judy food seller, and I go there and she's there. And every year she promises me, I saw your conference, I will come the next time. And this year she's here, thank you, right? But also, you have to have the willingness to be the beggar in chief, because the partners that you have to appeal to them. And you see, all of these sponsors are people that I personally call, write to, appeal to, and tell them, this is what we're doing. But I have to tell you, the funniest one this year was talking to Eloina here. So I got someone, the Bold New Normal. If you had just said the Bold New Normal, I know what it is. That's all you had to say. I'm like, okay, wow, next time I will, make sure I come good. Kojo was the first person to buy a ticket. And he actually lives in the UK. I noticed, he actually lives in the UK. He was in school with Patricia and I went same school, but he bought his ticket, he aligned his trip, and he's here. I know Liz did the same to make sure that she was here for this time. And there are a couple of other people that people have messaged me to say they're planning their trips around the conference. If I haven't seen you, please do say hello to me, because I'd love to acknowledge you and everyone who has, even the winners, Koforidia all the way. I appreciate every single one of you. And the reason is not just because we're having a conference, but because you're dedicating your day to this conference to then go away and do more, but also connecting with people here. So that before we get the app, the technology to identify each other, we convene and build those connections. It's extremely important. And I'll touch on that a little bit more through the masterclass. But just bear in mind that a time will come when you'll be somewhere and you'll say you remember when, because we all know that remember when, who I met, who I spoke to, who I did. All the stuff that they read, and they read the nice speech, and she's done this, blah, 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 blah. In just a couple of decades, most people will have no idea who I am. You know that. It's just the way life goes. And you're some old woman sitting, and I always tell people that part of the reason why I do this, over and above all that I feel and love about this continent, is that I like to hope that when I'm an old woman, this country will be better. That when I go to a hospital, I don't need a connection. They'll say, Abrewa, wait, you sit here. When it's your turn, we'll see to you. And I won't be panicking that, if I go, they won't mind me. Think about it. It's now that we have the strength and the energy as we are to build what we want for future generations, but also for our future selves. We have that opportunity to now. Most of the speakers have gone, but every single speaker, when we talk about building connections, speaking to people, building your network, every single speaker who you have heard spoken is at maximum 2 degrees of separation away from me. They're either someone I know personally or someone I know one person who can connect me with. It's so important. It may be that there's one person between you and that person, but if you don't meet that person here today or wherever you go, you won't know when you need them, right? And the fact that they take the time, we spent months on this. Our poor speakers, I nag them, I email them, I WhatsApp them, I book meetings with them, I talk and talk and talk and talk and talk until it's like, I see what you want. Okay, we're fine. So let's dive into our masterclass, because I promised that was just a quick intro. Can we have the slides on the screen, please? You've heard a lot today, and the goal of the masterclass is never to completely, next one's the masterclass, please. The goal is not to reformat you. It's really giving you an opportunity to pull it all together. We have an hour. I will ask you questions at the appropriate time, but most importantly, I want you to use this time to start to consolidate all the things you have heard throughout the day. Can I have the next slide, please? Hold on. Is it working? Okay, I'm talking, but can the slide... okay, now we got it. Pull it all together, because your action plan is for you, and you have to do after this. Bernard asked you, everyone has been talking about do. It's the doing that matters. The ideating, we can ideate. We need ideas. We need strategies. We need to do. We need to do consistently. We need to do over a long period. You've heard that in many different forms today. So let's get into it. The first thing I thought I'd touch on really quickly, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, is those of you who were not here last year, or if you were here yet last year, here are a few slides from last year, just to get you back into that thinking mode around vision. We talked about what people's visions are for life, because we were talking about the audacity to win differently. And we talked about how people should see themselves a year from then. If you're here and you were here last year, think to yourself, what were the things that I wanted to do in a year? Have I done them? Did I step into that 1-year vision? Did I achieve it or didn't I achieve it? But that will be an opportunity to check yourself and say, am I really doing the things after I come to this conference that I claim I'll do? We also talked about 5 years, and we talked about 10 years down the line to start to do. So think about it. 1 year has come by so quickly. If you didn't do any of these, make sure that you take the time to create those visions. We also talked about the outcomes that you seek, because you have to want results, right? Patricia talked about, you give people KPIs and you measure that you clearly define what you expect of them. What do you expect of yourself in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Write it down. Write down the vision, make it clear, right? And then we talked about the fact that you have to be intentional about it. Don't just be, yes, see, or you just come up with something and go away. You talk about being intentional. We talked about being discerning about your vision. We talked about being authentic. Remember, the question was, what do you have and what are you going to do? That's about authenticity, because it starts with what you already have. You can add to it, but you have something already. And I talked about the fact that, look, don't make this sort of turn into a source of stress where now you come back in a year and say, I'm tired. Enjoy the journey, which is why I think one of the speakers talked about you can either focus on what you love or what you hate. If you focus on what you love, you will enjoy the journey as well. So there's an opportunity to think about that. And then I asked you to think about your picture of success and how you're going to measure success. So that's just an opportunity to reset your recalibrate your minds around visions and what they mean and why they're important and what we talked about last year. Now let's dive into 2024. When we started the day, there was a lot of talk around prosperity. I think it was a few of the panelists, and then I think David as well talked about there's so many definitions. David talked about you define the prosperity you want in a certain time frame, and then you go on, you reach that, you go beyond that, on and on. The reason why I very intentionally chose this particular title for this year's masterclass is this. We keep talking about prosperity, 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 and it's easy to see it outside of ourselves. It's something that's out there that I need to grab. It's something that's out there that I need to achieve. And that is true. But your prosperity depends on your value. Right? So it actually starts from you. Not from just the things that you think are out there that are to be achieved, but what is inside of you that is worthy of that said prosperity. Right? So, if I asked you, I said your value. If I asked you, what does that value mean to you? And do we have some mics available, please? Now that I've said value is about what you have, not just what you're seeking, what does value mean to you? Okay. Do we have someone who hasn't talked a lot before we spoke? Okay, this lady hasn't said a word today. Have you? Can we have the mic here, please? Let's do this quickly. We have an hour. What does value mean to you? Your value. What does value mean to you?
So throughout the conference, I've been thinking about that kind of, and to me, my value is my wealth of experiences. So taking note of the things that I have been through or the experiences that I have held, and making sure that they come together to make sense sometime down in the future. Because I see myself as a generalist, so sometimes I think and say, I'm not good at anything in particular. But thinking about it, I've experienced a lot of things. I've done hospitality, I've done HR, I've done, business development, business management. So just taking the wealth of experiences that I have and making sure that it actually makes sense to where I could be in the future. Okay, so your value is your experience, and it's your varied experience. Okay? So next person, in which areas of your life do you believe that you're the most valuable? Do you have someone who hasn't spoken? Come on, people who haven't spoken, raise your hands. It's not complicated. We have Patrine, we have Quist, you've spoken. We have the lady in yellow who has been volunteered to us. We have Osofo Mami in the back. She thinks I can't see her. Nako, I've seen you. I saw you come in. So, Patrine, in which areas of your life do you believe you are most valuable? The mic volume. Put them on before you give them to the people responding so that they do it quickly.
Yeah, I think being human.
In being human.
And for me, being human is walking in your purpose, because we're all created for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And the purpose is to sort of make this world a better place. So if we are being who we are, that's it, being human, then we can add more value to this world. Okay, so you think it's in serving in your purpose that you think you are most valuable. So a third person, which area, and all these responses, I expect you to write your own version and interpretation because you're building your plan. Which areas of your life are your priorities? What's a priority for you? What matters? Yes.
I think my family.
Okay.
And building the network that I have as a woman in leadership to be able to impact the lives around me. Okay.
All right. So your area of your life is your priorities. I'm going to give your family, and you also added the second one, family and
then using my experience as a woman in leadership to impact
others. Okay. Jesse, you give us your last word, and then we'll move on.
Okay, so currently I'm a student, so my area of priority is my academics, as well as trying to totally exploit or explore the opportunities in my school outside the academic field, so that I don't just leave with a degree, but I leave with more than that, networks and other side skills that will better my life.
Awesome. You know, the reason why I ask these specific questions is that sometimes we struggle to be self-reflective. So we hear the things and we agree and we grab the nuggets, but the systemic structure by which we actually bring things to life become a struggle. Because all of not challenges, but all of the routines, everything that happens in your life day to day, that happened yesterday before you came here today, will be there tomorrow. So if you don't pause to really create that structure and think about it, then you say, oh, but I wanted to do this. Oh, I said this. I said this is important. I said that is important. You know, there's a young lady who is a student, and she wants to do all these things in the world. And she writes to me, and she talks about how she wants to do this, she's doing that, she's setting up a club, but her schoolwork is struggling. Now, her dad thinks she should go for classes, blah, blah, blah. And I remember a year ago, she had asked me what I was doing when I was her age, a student. Like, where was I going? I said, nothing. I was just being a student. I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't even class prefect. So I was actually doing nothing, maybe a bit of sport. And then I said to her, I think your challenge is you're trying to do too many things right now. And what your number one priority should be right now as a teenager is your schoolwork. And if you notice something about everyone who spoke, they have something that they're really, really good at, that they really know. And everything else has become an offshoot of that. So in terms of being valuable, you know that they have something you can use as their foundation, and then all the other things come off of that. You know, I was really fascinated when Bernard was speaking and explaining, because I'd heard in the past that Bernard was the journalist who doesn't have journalism qualifications, right? And I'd heard everyone talk about how he studied economics. But you'd also recall that one of the speakers earlier in the day had said how everything you do, I think it was Janine who said that everything you do contributes and it adds a meaning to who you be, right? Do you think that credible expose that Bernard gave us on what I wrote notes, so I'm not an economist. I was writing notes. Do you think that credible expose on what really is an economy and what really matters to an economy would have sounded the way it sounded if he hadn't studied economics? I mean, he reads a lot, I give him that. But my point is that you and I know that it doesn't matter who sits in front of Bernard, if it's anything economic and beyond, but starting with the economics, you know he knows what he's talking about, even though today we call him a journalist, right? So are you getting the picture in terms of that value? Have something that you're master of. Intentionally, it doesn't, look, I'm not suggesting that mastery thing should be only in your career, even though we're going to focus more on career today. But decide to be the master of something. It may be the job you've already started doing. It may be something that you're doing on the side. Whatever it is, be known for one thing that you do really, really, really well. And then you have the opportunity to start thinking about what you mean in different aspects of your life, how you're going to prioritize different aspects of your life. Now, for me, a few weeks ago, I turned 50. So, I spent so much of... You're too funny. I spent so much of the last year, which is the 50th year leading up to the 50th birthday, thinking about these things, thinking about not just my value, but some of my priorities. And so as we continue this discussion, I want to bring some of my choices to life for you. And I was very intentional. It took me time to write it down, but I wanted to make it clear to me before anyone else. So I thought, what are my priorities for value? Right? Where do I want to have things to offer that are most valuable? And where does it matter? Because when I wake up in the morning, I want to be very intentional about where I'm investing my value. So I put faith down. Not because I want to rhetorically remind all of you how I'm a Christian and I go to church, because we do that very easily, but because I'm placing enough value in it to invest my time and energy. Otherwise, I'll scratch it. I'll say I go to church on Sunday. Invest, right? Intentional. It means that in that area, I want to develop some mastery beyond where I am. I wrote down family for me, and I only use these things to bring things to life for you. I wrote down family because I know I have a responsibility to the people I call family. So what value are you to this relative, your mother, your child, your husband, whoever your wife, what is your value to them? And are you going to be intentional about the value that you and I'm not talking about the value you place on them. I'm not asking you whether you love your child or not. I'm asking what of you're investing in and the value that you have in them. And that forces the question of, well, what do I have anything to offer them? You don't have things to offer people just because they're your child, right? That doesn't mean you have to. And I'm not talking about putting food in their mouth. I'm talking about really, really investing value in them to create prosperity. I wrote down career. That tends to be obvious. Most people talk about a career, and we're going to spend more time on career, so I'm not going to belabor that because we know that. I talked about church. I thought I wanted to actually be someone who's valuable. Like when my church thinks of something, not for the accolade or recognition, but rather, how is it that I am contributing to the success and prosperity of this institution? It doesn't have to be in people's faces, but I have to do something. It's a choice I'm making. And I know you're probably surprised to see the bold new normal there. But it is an important priority to me. We spend so much time on the bold new normal, and we're going to be spending so much more time on it that if I didn't value it, I have to stop. I'm being very serious. Don't do things, and we all learn. I mentioned 50 intentionally because you learn over time. If you asked me these questions 20 years ago, I didn't have the answers. But thankfully, I'd like to hope that what I've learned, I can share with others, right? So it's very intentional. And you know why I do it. I started my preamble about what we need to create and so on. But it can't be the case of just, you want to do the bold new. Again, what value are you placing in it? When you're asking someone to come and do something as part of it, are you really demonstrating to them that you value this thing? So you are putting your own value into it. It's called skin in the game. That's another way to think of value. If you have skin in your child, you feel that you have skin in the game with your child, you do whatever you have to pour into them. The same goes for the bold, And of course, friends. Friends are really important. And I have key friends. So I only do this to ensure that the picture is a bit clearer for you as we talk about your value, your prosperity. Because we can think of prosperity as, oh, Lucy has a nice new car, she has a house, she has a car, blah, blah, blah. Or you can think of the prosperity as, actually, there are 10 people on this planet who say, because of what Amma poured into my life, the value that she placed in my life, this is how things are different. So don't only measure value in terms of financial, the money of it, right? Now, having said that, we have to pick one to focus on, because now we have 40 minutes. And so the emphasis I'm going to place today is on your career. And the reason why I could have picked any, but the reason why I talk about career is that when you come to a conference like this, we end up spending a lot of time talking about what you spend most of your daytime doing, right? All these other things, you manage them, you create balance, you heard all of that. But ultimately, when you talk about dancing, and dancing is what you do, that's your career, and you're then translating that into, as Bernard encouraged you, not just teaching children to dance, but creating pathways for them. Now, some of the things that Bernard and Yao said are probably going to challenge you. And it was Kojo, because now they're asking you to make dance an avenue for teaching other things, right? Mathematics. So the question becomes, are you going to value that enough where you are going to make yourself better in the field of mathematics to be able to add that to the children? Or are you going to invest in partnering with a mathematician or someone who knows math better? Or are you going to create, do you see what I'm saying? So you talked about you created the hook, just like Bernard created with journalism. But the question is, what tools are you going to use to add that additional value, if you value the children the way you say you do? Does that make sense? So that's why today I wanted to focus on your careers. And I wanted to focus your career in the marketplace. And it's interesting, because some of these words came out throughout the day, even though each speaker doesn't know what the other speaker is going to say, but it works together because of the time we spend curating it and thinking about how each session builds on other sessions, right? So in focusing on career, those of you who work for, businesses that are a bit more mature, you've probably seen this, and I'm sorry one of them is a bit faded, but people, process, technology, familiar? You heard it, yeah, Brett. When you hear people, process, technology, what does it mean to you? They're imperatives, and we hear it, but what comes to mind in a business when you hear people, process, technology? Mic, please. Okay, it was your hand up? Okay.
What comes to mind is a system that works, that is iterative, that continues.
Oh, my gears gave it away. The gears that I brought. I have to stop using these engineering analogies. Anyone else? A system that works. And this is so, remember that word. It's one of my favorite words, system. Anyone else? What comes to mind when you hear people, process, technology? Yatia, every day they'll come. We are doing people, process, technology again. Oh, I love me. Because of you that I repeated it, because I love the way you laugh when I say it. Yes.
What comes to mind when I think about people, process, technology is who you serve, how you serve, and what you use to serve those people.
Okay, we've closed the masterclass. We're going home. We're done. What's your name again?
Kate.
Okay. So Kate is giving some of the game away, but we'll still play the game. Thank you, Kate. Okay, we have another hand up here.
Thank you. So what comes to mind is innovation. So how are people going to be innovative and have a systematic way of doing that? Thank you.
Thank you. So you see, businesses use this very basic. Of course, there's much more to how you create a successful business, but they use this to think about how they're going to balance their resources and create value. Would you agree, in a nutshell? How much will I put into people? How much will I put into the process of the how, the technology enabler, how much do I need? And let's see, and that's how they try to create value. And they try to put it all together in some form of system that works, right? And that's the goal, because they want to be able to replicate the value that they create. And when businesses create value, they prosper. Agreed? Right? So there's an intentionality that says, I will invest in if you think about the business as you think of an individual, this business is saying, I'll do this much for people, I'll do this much for process, I'll do this much for technology, and when I put it all together, it will produce X, Y, and Z, and there's a marketplace for X, Y, and Z, so I'll make money. And then my shareholders will be happy. Yeah? Good. So, we're not here to talk about businesses. We're here. I lost my deck. Can I have it back, please? I think I might have pressed the wrong button, so help me out here. I did. My apologies. Okay, so now we're back to you. If you think of what we described for a business, now as a unitary entity, now let's make that you. You in this room, you who have spent your day here, which is very much appreciated. Think of yourself similarly as a system that is focused on creating value, right? Because the prosperity is the outcome. It's not, prosperity is not a system. It doesn't make things. It's your value that makes things. So the question becomes, when you're thinking about your value and you think of yourself in terms of school, skills, tools, and people, what comes to mind? So I'm going to ask one person, and we'll move on. What comes to mind when you see a picture like this, and I am claiming that's about you and your career? Okay. Am I making the questions too hard? Should I change the questions a little? I need more hands raised.
Okay, please, about skills. I'm looking at...
Whoop. This is my second shoe malfunction today. I don't know whether anyone noticed. When I came off the stage the first time, all of my shoes just fell apart. Crystal saved the day. I had different people saving the day, and I was just all over the place, thanks to the heat. And so, sorry? Sorry, my dear. Sorry about the shoe malfunction.
Sorry. Okay, so about skills, I'm looking at what I have inherently to be able to work with, and the tools. What would I use? How would I use the skills I have, or what is going to support the skills that I have in order to make good use of it? And then the people has to do with the people I'll be working with around me to make sure that at the end of the day, I have the career that I'm looking for.
Okay. Another mic here.
Thank you. I'll speak on people. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner, a student as well. For me, people means my village. For me to be able to come here, it's taking my husband, my mom, my brother, and I had to outsource my washing today because I wanted to come here. So for me, people is very key in my career and how I advance. Thank you.
Awesome. I like that. I like that. You know, I say that I agree with everyone who says it takes a village, and it's taken a village to make me who I am. But I disagree with a village where nobody's in charge. That's not what you describe. I thought I'd just make that point. You know, we keep, especially as a people, Ghanaians, Africans, black people, we've said it how we've exported it. It takes a village. Somebody has to be in charge of the village. A village flounders if nobody is actually leading it. Right? So she's been very intentional in why she needs her village and so on. Don't just leave things to the village and hope that somehow the village will create your system of value creation. Villages don't do that. Let's just be very clear. Okay, so we've had some good insights around the system. Now, the reason why this is so important to me is that for many of the things that we discuss, we haven't, and we seem not to know how to create systems. And systems isn't a box. System is, again, that balance I told you. A company looks at people, process, technology. For you, it's tools, skills, and people. It's a system. And you have to create it if you're going to do any of the things that you heard today on a consistent basis and create value that will translate into prosperity. You need to have a system that works. You can't work otherwise. So, let's talk about skills. If you think about your skills and someone asked you to name your top 3 skills, what would you name? I'm going to get just one person to answer this particular question. Top 3 skills. Any variation? Have you spoken today? Yes, I heard you. Who hasn't spoken? What are your top 3? Have you spoken? So the non-speakers, did they? Your eyes were so down on the page that I could see that they had moved down. You want to tell us your top 3 skills? And remember, when I say top 3 skills, this question isn't about I'm an engineer or I'm a doctor. Your skills. What are your top 3 skills?
My top 3 skills would be I like to talk to people.
Can you hold the mic closer up?
Okay, sure. I think I like holding conversations.
You like holding conversations?
Yes, that's my number 1 skill.
We can't hear you. Can you lift the mic?
And I'm very good at delegating.
You're good in what?
Delegating.
Dedication.
Delegating.
Oh, delegation. So it's like talking to people. You're good at delegation. What's the third thing?
Wow.
You can't think of a third one. Who here can think of their top three? Three that they have. Okay. The lady in black. I haven't heard you today.
Hi, my name is Alison, and I'm from the Central Leadership
Your name
Program.
is?
Alison.
Alison, yes.
Yes, please. My top 3 skills: organization, conflict management, and communication.
Awesome. Who here has a skill they had but they've forgotten? Why are you laughing? You haven't forgotten any skills. Hey, my millennium ladies, I can see you. Your heads, the way your heads are going down, I'll call on you. Who's multi-talented? The gentleman in the multicolored top. I want a skill he has forgotten. Who here has a skill that they're willing to admit they have forgotten? Refi, Emmanuel, what skill do you have that you've forgotten?
Actually, after completing GHS in 2014, I went to learn cobbling skills like shoemaking. I'm very sure I've really forgotten. It's been 10 years now, so I've forgotten.
So you can't fix our shoes anymore. But you see, that's the thing. Sometimes we also forget things. So don't think that your storehouse of skills is fixed. And you have to be willing to allow yourself to flex that storehouse of skills, right? And sometimes what also happens with your skills is that you advance them, but sometimes not in very practical ways. So let me give you an example. If you asked me to really, really take the time to solve a calculus problem, I would struggle, even though I was good at calculus. And there's certain circuitry things that, okay, I'd have to look at the spec, then I can build it. But what I can do is explain the principles behind it to someone else. Does that make sense? So you can probably explain the basics of how you fix a shoe, but you probably can't really do it yourself today. And what that means is that those forgotten skills are skills that you could actually revisit and pick up on if you need to. You may have to do some refreshers and so on. But don't assume that your store of skills are fixed, which is why we learn. We go to other people, we refresh, we stay up to speed. What skills are you working on, though? If skills are an important part of your system, what are you working on? And I'm not talking about a qualification. Let me be very clear. I'm talking about skills. Yes, I don't think you've spoken.
Okay, so I'm working on my communication and negotiation skills.
Okay. That's a very practical, because you have to think about a skill as something that allows you to do. Right? So you can go and get another qualification with a certificate. Great. I know we love certificates. We love qualifications. Right? We love them. They're like personal to us. But we need the actual practical skill of doing. So he wants to be a better communicator and a negotiator. Who here has identified a skill they need? Yes.
Yes, so I'm working on report writing. Because I come from a background of finance and we do more figures, but then I transitioned in career to project management and I realized that I need to be writing reports, content on trainings and things that we do. And every time I write, my boss will send back with a lot of track changes and and initially, before I got offended because she was actually my junior in secondary school.
Why were you offended?
Because she was my junior in secondary school. Because
so why does that mean you should be offended?
Because I
want you to say the real reason.
No, so these are the reasons. So initially, it's because I felt that, well, I'm your senior, and in 10 years ago, she came in the working space as an intern, where I had done like 4 years already. And so for her to be coming to, do a lot of track changes to my reporting, but, reading and doing a personal introspection.
So can I pause you a little bit, and I will come back to your introspection. So basically, you were offended because in your mind, you are better skilled than she is.
Exactly.
Do you get that?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
So she's a small girl, that's it.
Yes.
So I'll come back to your introspection. But let's be honest, okay? Let me put Bernard on the spot here. Bernard's older brother is my schoolmate. Older, is our schoolmate. Do you think that I'm a better journalist than Bernard? You never. Right? Even I wouldn't think that in my wildest dreams. So you see the thing with skills, it's got nothing to do with when you left school, who did what, when, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. What have you invested in? He's invested 2 decades. I've invested 0. Who's the journalist in the room? No brainer. You can love me for whatever you love me for, but you're not going to call me to do his job. So do you see where we struggle sometimes? Sometimes we have an inability to even recognize that a skills gap doesn't mean that we are deficient in that skill. It doesn't make us less than somebody else. We shouldn't be embarrassed to actually ask the question. Finish your question, I'll finish the thought. Finish your statement, I'll finish the thought.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was that, so doing a personal introspection, I realized that, yes, I may be good with other finance and other things, but when it comes to writing, she was better. And so I had to just, take steps in making that. And that's what I wanted to arrive at.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Remember what I said at the beginning, that I wish I knew what all of you know, and I'll never know it? Because you all know something I don't know. When we first decided when I felt led, let me rephrase, to have a conference, my first thought was, but I don't know anything about organizing a conference. True. Sometimes we have to borrow skills. The things you don't have, you can borrow them. Don't feel that, and this is a big leadership challenge we have, that when someone thinks they're senior, they're older, they're in a higher position, even when they're clearly wrong, they don't know the thing, they insist that I am the one that has to say how we do it. So my first thought was, well, I'm not a planner, I'm not an event. Oh yeah, I've done small. Oh yeah, we've all done children's party, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a proper event. I asked a friend, I said, you've had a number of events. Can you tell me who I should talk to? She introduced me to 2 people. The first person, I sat on the phone call. I said, this is the thing, the Zoom call. This is what I'm thinking of, blah, blah, blah. She said, oh, this thing, dear, and you've never done some before, and nobody will even come, and blah, blah, blah. She told me all, because she knows I don't know what I'm talking about. It's true. I haven't done it before. But I came to you because you have the skills. You're supposed to give me the can do, not the cannot. So I'm like, cool. Thank you very much. It was, nice to meet you. Bye. And then I jumped on another call. And this lady was listening to me. She's trying to make out where I'm going with this, what I'm trying to do about this. And then I started mentioning some book and blah, 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 blah. And she just said to me, okay, can I read your book? Right? So in that moment, she has the skills, but she's trying to understand the value I'm trying to create so that she can marry what she is expert at, I'm not, with this value that I'm trying to create so that something can happen. Does that make sense to you? I'm still not an event planner. We've done 3 conferences. I haven't graduated, right? But Crystal and her team, she said to me, the next call, I've read the book, I get it. The minute the person says they get it, it means those skills will come to deliver for you. Do you get it? So, and thank you, Team Einan, because you keep making us proud. And that's why you see a round stage. The round stage isn't because we're trying to be fanciful. The round stage is because once the idea was shared with the person who has the skills, the value creation was, well, what you're trying to do, I've seen this other thing, haven't done it in Ghana yet, but I think this is how you create an environment that reflects what you're trying to create. Make sense? So sometimes you don't have to be, if you lack the skill, go and find it. Sometimes you can study it for yourself, but sometimes you need to find the person who knows it. Right? When people come to me and they say, oh, coach, yes, I can coach you, but I'm not a certified, trained coach, the one that can give you the line-by-line apple. So me, I have Jigodi on speed dial. I'm like, where you've reached now, you don't need the amateurs, you need the experts. Please, go and talk to the experts. You have to understand your skills, and don't be afraid to say, I don't have this skill. Because if you stay afraid, you will never develop your skills base. Let's move on. I hope you're very clear on the skills piece. Remember, we're creating a system because all of the things that you have heard today, I want you to execute them, but I want you to execute them in ways that are sustainable because you created a system. And if you don't have the skills for them, the ones that you are going to execute, either acquire the skills yourself or find people who have the skills that you need. There are skills. The skills exist either in you or in someone else, but it's part of the value you're trying to create. If we move on to tools, think of a tool, before I even talk about the accelerator piece, what comes to mind when you hear a tool? For you as a person, you're creating your system. What comes to mind when you hear of a tool? What's a tool? Nakoa has raised her finger, and I will take it. What's a tool? What's a tool that comes to mind?
So to me, a tool is what's going to enable me to get to the result I am looking at. So it would mean self-development or getting myself the right things that would improve the skills that I have so that I get the results that I'm looking at.
So we're building a system, and now Koa used a statement here, a word where she said improve. She used two words, improve her skills. Now, hold on a second. So I guess this mic is a tool. Because my ability to speak did not change when I lost the mic. But suddenly you couldn't hear me. If you were standing next to me, Alona, you would have heard me. But because you're all seated here, trying to address a whole room, without that mic, it was difficult for you to hear me. So think of your tools as accelerators, or that which allows you to operate on a larger scale. Because one of the challenges we have in our country and on our continent, which is why I like the point made about aggregation of some businesses and so on, is that we let me find the right words here. We think really small. And our small thinking is actually very cultural. You know, one of the things I mentioned in the Bold New Normal was how we like to say, oh, we're getting on small. We love it, small. Oh, nkakra. Which is why somebody, I think it was a speaker who said that someone in agriculture said someone was studying agric and they didn't want to go and weed, right? It was there, yes, they didn't want to go and weed, right? And I can give you many such examples, but why is that person saying that? Because remember, they're talking about the hoe and cutlass as their tools. They may have the skill of knowing how to farm. They can tell me, Lucy, when you should plant maize, cassava, yam, blah, blah, blah. They know all of that, the skill they have, especially if they've studied it, if they studied a Greek. But his concern, or her concern, is taking on that profession means they're going to weed. And the problem with their system that leads them to think that it's not worth doing is that they think their tool, the only tool they can have is a hoe and cutlass. And I don't know about you, but if you were going to be a farmer with a hoe and cutlass, none of us would do it. No, but nobody in this room will want to be hoe and cutlass farmer. So you start to understand that our problem there is not even it's not skill, it's tooling. How do we have farmers who have tools that allow them to mechanize their farming, to farm on a large scale with the same effort? Because the effort that you use to be doing this, if you're sitting in a nice tractor and you're driving it, by the time this guy has gone round himself, you're gone. Right? So your tools are accelerators. They're accelerators that build on your skills. And it's so important that you identify the tools that are relevant to your ambition. Remember, prosperity, value, 2 farmers, 1 hoe, 1 tractor, 1 hour, tractor man will do more than hoe man. Suddenly, the value he has created because he's weeded a larger field or harvested a larger field, whatever he's done in that hour has become much more by a guy who has the mechanized approach than the guy who has the hoe and cutlass. The same applies to you. Don't jump on bandwagons of technology, tools, new innovations. Don't jump on the bandwagon. Take a step back and say, what is the value I am trying to create? And what are the tools that are relevant to that? Don't say, oh, everyone is talking about, what's the latest? AI, right? AI is going to affect all of us. Don't get me wrong. I recognize that. But not everyone in this room suddenly has to become an AI expert. If it's not relevant to what you're doing. And even if it's relevant to what you're doing, it may be that it's another case of buying that tooling to do it, as opposed to becoming the tooling expert. So spend the time to really understand the tools that you need to master in your field. So you've got your skills, now you've got your tools. It's extremely, extremely important that you think about it in a very structured way. Otherwise, you'll be running helter-skelter. Oh, yes, we are basso, yes, say, yes, say. Even social media, right? Think of social media as a tool. But for your particular line of work, which social media is relevant? I'm not answering the question for you. I'm challenging you to think about it. I was describing my interactions on Facebook or my personal Facebook to my children, and they're like, you are the people who use Facebook the way it was designed. You're using it to do all these nice family and friends business. That's why we are not there. So if you're looking for a customer like my son, you're in the wrong place. He's not there. You can post a gazillion times. You can promote $1 million. He is not there. So the question is, are you intentionally picking out the tools that you need, and are you mastering the use of tools? I do a lot of things myself because I want to learn. So someone said one of your skills is delegation. I like to have a degree of understanding, not be the expert, before I give it to someone else to completely do. Because it's important that I give it to someone who can do it better, who has maybe the better tools. But if I have no understanding, if I never go on any of the platforms, how will I know what happens there? Again, I've used the farming example. I've used the social media example. Be intentional about the tooling that you choose to add to your skills. Now, here's the big one, and then we just have a couple more slides, and then we'll pause. People. And I intentionally left this to last. If you paid attention very closely today, a lot of different aspects of people came up very intentionally. And because I don't know any better, I'm going to give you a couple of biblical examples of why my first point is so important. Now, of course, 3, 12, and 70 will make sense to those of you who are Christians. Jesus had the inner 3. There was the 12 disciples. There was the bigger crowd of 70 and beyond. And Dr. Pebby touched on it. But if you think about it, all the examples we know a leadership coach will come and tell you that, oh, yeah, you're the, what's the word? You are the sum or the average of the people you spend the most time with. You've heard that before, right? But what you see consistently is that people who do well, they do have an inner circle of people who are around them, who are reflective of the value they want to create. If the people you're spending the most of your time with are not part of your value creation, forget your tools and forget your skills. You're not going anywhere. Because they probably have the biggest impact on your mindset, your software, your programming. They probably have the biggest impact on your resilience, your tenacity, your ability to stay the course. It is those people around you. So if you read the book of Daniel, for instance, we read how amazing Daniel was and all he did in the Babylonian court and so on. We forget that those three guys, who we sometimes read about in passing, they were his main men. And they exemplified what Daniel was trying to be. What struck me most about that story is that actually when they were moved from their home country, only 25% of the Israelites left and went as captives. And when they moved, these people were 15 years old. Daniel was 15. And he wasn't going to see his mother and father or his relatives ever again in his life. Right? So when you think about it, these three main men were the staying power that he had. You can go on. Jesus had his inner circle. My point to you is that you need to have that inner circle of three. Remember, Janine talked about vulnerability and what you keep to yourself, what you share. There have to be some people that you're willing to be fully open with. But make sure that they're the right people. Remember, you're creating your system here. It's about a system. So you have to create your three people. Choose them. Iron sharpens iron. Choose them well. Now, your 12, in my view, your 3 could be part of your 12. But the 12 starts to widen the circle a bit. Right? There may be that, it starts to include, your 3 could be based on your own criteria. The 12, maybe you start to think of who are the people who are in my industry that I need to know? Who are the people that I look up to? Who are the people I want to connect with? Give yourself reasons for why those people exist in the 12. The same way you give them yourself reasons for why the 3 exist. And then 70 becomes a much wider group of people. In fact, some of them would be, you don't see them as often, but you know you can reach out to them. You can just pick up the phone and call them any day, any time. Are these numbers cast in stone? No, I'm not saying that it has to be 3. You may say 5, you may say 2. But think in a structured way. If I asked you who are the 3 people, if you had a crisis right now, you're going to call. If you don't know, then you need to write them down. And what you need to do is invest in these people. Remember, we're talking about value creation. Your investment is building that relationship. Your investment is being there for them. Your investment is being the one that they can come to as well. But you have to be valuable to them for you to get value out of it in terms of prosperity. And now let's narrow it down into the workplace. In your workplace, where in Ghana we love to talk about, and this one is against me, and this one went to do this, and this one said this. I mean, we're so obsessed with, I know David said competition. I don't even think it's competition sometimes. David is right. But we're so obsessed with focusing on what is wrong with the people around us that we can't see what is right about them. Does that make sense? By no means am I perfect, but if you thought about only, she's probably this, she's probably that, you won't be here, right? Give other people the benefit of the doubt. Find the good in them and tap into the good in them, even if you know them at a distance, because we need to create a country of trust. And your career needs people you can trust. You're not going to create value in your people relationships if there's no trust. Invest in them, but invest in yourself in ways that allows you to invest in them. Create value. So what I mean by that is, a lady who had her work crossed out, she was very upset Very. But I'm sure now she's thankful that actually somebody spent the time crossing out her work. Because that person has taken the time to say, hey, Rabba, Brofi Dianye. She wouldn't have improved otherwise. And now she knows better to create better value out of it. If someone takes the time to correct you, and I say this respectfully and intentionally, I feel that as Ghanaians, we are overly emotional. Can I say that again? We are overly emotional. People, there's a place for your emotions. And I don't even know whether I can extend it to black people. We're too emotional. So where we should be using our rational thinking to address a situation, we emotionalize it and park it. Because emotion, can I argue with your emotions? I can't argue with how you're feeling. But if we're having a rational debate, I can disagree or agree with you. Right? Earlier this year, friends of mine and I, my screen has gone off now. Okay, back. Friends of mine, we went away to Jamaica. We're celebrating our milestone birthday. We get to the airport. We're having, it was just like being in Accra. I'll be honest with you. You get to the airport, the usual stuff. We are here. The shuttle that's supposed to take us to our hotel is late. We're there. I feel like we're languishing. And I think that when I spend... Okay, what's going on? Can you kill it, please? Kill. We need a few more minutes. We'll wrap and we'll celebrate. Can we kill this, please? Okay. Okay. Well done. So, and I think that when I spend a lot of time in my head, that's how I describe it. So by the time I engage you on something that's important to me, I've thought about it for so long that it sounds boom, 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 boom. And I know it can be overwhelming. So we get there, and I don't want to talk to the people who are trying to get us across, because I know I'll start to give them a lecture in that moment, because I think it's ridiculous. Once I start thinking that, it will go. So my friends try and engage this lady, and they're doing the usual job. And we're sitting there, we're waiting for this shuttle. And I was like, you know what, I had enough of this. So I walk up to the lady, and I don't even remember. I'm not insulting, and I'm not rude. That I'm not. But I like to do it's A, B, C, D. Why are we here? I don't get it. Instead of coming back with reasoned responses, her response to me and to everyone was now I got her in her feelings. So she has to walk away. What? Kanembaya, what's you're in your feelings? I don't need feelings. I need action. Don't be overly emotional. Don't take everything personally. When someone challenges you or asks you a question, seize it as an opportunity to raise your game and think harder. Am I open for by heart in my feelings? Me, I don't have feelings. I've traveled from wherever I've traveled to come here, and I'm tired. Don't do that. So place value on the people in there. Don't be overly emotional. Be rational. Think about the fact that everyone you engage, what's in it for them? It's not a bad way to look at life. It doesn't mean that they always have to want something from you, but you have to be thinking of what you can give if you want to be a value creator. So we have a system. We have tools, we have skills, we have people. You've got to make it work as a system for you. Your system, my system, not the same. The system I had 5 years ago and the system I have now, not the same. You have to be willing to evolve, which is why I talked about priorities, why I talked about what you're focusing on. You don't have to do all the priorities. You have to decide, maybe in this phase of my life, this is what I'm focused on. You've heard from all these amazing speakers. You want to get things done. Don't boil the ocean. There's no need to boil the ocean. Be good at something in particular and create a system that evolves but allows you to create value. And as you create the value, the prosperity in your career will come, I can assure you. You think it's all about flapping arms and so on. But the fact that you show up if you decide one of your value-creating systems, priorities, is being on time, you want things to be done. 1 hour, I have this time. I say to this guy, I'm meeting you at 12. Do you recognize that to be able to show up on time every single day means that you have to have a system that works? The reason why we struggle so much is that we don't create systems. I'm not talking about planning. Planning is part of your system. But here's the deal. If you know every morning you have to wake up and you do XYZ tasks and you haven't found how to do it, don't be planning a meeting at the time that you're supposed to be sweeping, because you're not going to show up. And what that in turn does is that you start to develop a reputation of where they're always late, which then it undermines the value that you're creating. I want you to think hard about your system, what your value is, and I want you to implement it to allow you to do all the amazing things that you heard. So, as we wrap up, I've said all of these things. It's just for you to glance if you want to write any notes. But remember, those of you in careers, even if you're an entrepreneur of your own, your marketplace is global. There is nobody's job today that they do not have a global competitor for. Even your auntie and uncle in the village, they have global competitors. You know why? Because whatever they produce there's an imported version that they're competing against. And they need to figure out how they make their quality and their price point the right for that competes well. So everybody is now competing on a global stage. So I leave that up there for you to capture any final thoughts. And the last thing I'll say, and we will definitely wrap, is this. Last year we focused on vision, and I said that you should be audacious and to win. You now need to place you, the valuable you, in that vision. And so if you do not have value and are not creating value that can deliver on that vision, forget it. Forget it. It's not going to happen. Not because we came here and we said some nice things and you visualized and you thought, I have a vision, blah, blah, blah. Something allows a vision to happen, and you have to create value that will lead into vision with prosperity. You deserve to be successful. Our continent needs us to be successful. Our country needs us to be successful, but it won't happen without a real system in place. So think about your vision, think about your value. And with that said, I do believe that we've come to the end of our conference today. Thank you so much for your staying power to stay all day long. My thank yous will be plenty coming through. But at this point in time, I do have to hand over to the amazing Miss Amanda, the amazing.
Lucy doesn't want me to introduce her, right? So she's doing this.
I'm doing what?
I want to talk about you, but now you're going to talk about me.
See, so let me tell you about Amanda. So Amanda comes to me and she writes to me and she says, "Oh, Lucy, I'd like to volunteer for the Bold New Normal conference this year." What was the first question?
I think you said, okay, and then have I read the book?
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, I have it, but I have not read it yet.
And so I said, read the book and get back to me. And so she reads the book, sends me her thesis on the book, which was great. But the point is that once she read the book, the software part had been dealt with. And then my next question was, well, what can you do? And what can you do? Well, ladies and gentlemen,